This is the opensource.club, a free St. Louis-focused knowledge share podcast. Through industry experts, entrepreneurs, personal stories, and more, we provide the information you need to achieve and thrive. Always visit our website, theopensource.club, for more details. Contact us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn.
St. Louis storms are more frequent and intense with no climate control solution. 13 federal agencies say that our flooding and erosion problems will be insurmountable within the next 30 years. That suggests one of the things needed right now is better stormwater systems. I'm your host, Bonita Cornute, and this is Money Mondays by The Open Source. MSD's Public Affairs Manager is here to talk about stormwater and why we should care.
You are listening to Money Mondays by The Open Source. Become a subscriber. Go to www.theopensource.club. Add your email address in the subscribe to podcast window and have podcast notifications delivered to your inbox.
Headquartered in St. Louis, MSD is the nation's fourth largest sewer and wastewater utility with more than 9,600 miles of sewer lines. The company services St. Louis City and 90% of St. Louis County. Joining us now is Sean Hadley. Sean, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Sean, before we get started, I'd like to talk about a real scenario faced by Julie Job. This Afton resident bought her home in 2014. During the purchase process, she was told that there was a drain in her backyard. She was not told that the drain didn't work. After a hard rain, the drain overflows. Her front yard fills with water, leaves, and trash. It's so serious that Julie worries that it is a drowning hazard. The drain starts at the top of the hill in her neighbor's backyard, but they aren't having any problems. No skin in the game for them. Julie has contacted the city and MSD for help. Apparently the fix is a new sewer, but it costs almost $100,000. Now, Sean, MSD is a stormwater utility. This means you are responsible for existing sewer structures. But Julie has a private property drain that is shared with her neighbors. Your solution is to put an MSD sewer in her yard, but she can't afford it. What are her other options?
So, yeah, but this is a private property issue. And with Miss Job, she's got... it's kind of a unique situation, or kind of weird, is that she's got the kind of a drainage pool at the kind of top of her backyard that catches the rain, and it's actually where four of her property owners meet right there in the corner, and it's actually on her property though, but it catches the rain from the other properties, and then it runs down. It's supposed to run down this little pipe and then out into the street and then down to the sewer. Problem is that the pipe is very, very small, and the amount of rain that we've been getting has overwhelmed that, and actually her backyard has become a pond in a sense when it rains really heavily, and it actually washes down to the neighbors downstream from her. And the biggest issue that we saw there is that there is a fix there, but there's no funding source to fix that. And back in 2016. We had went out to voters and we put two propositions on the ballot, one for our rate increase for wastewaters for the next 4-year cycle. And the other thing we put on there was to get control of the existing stormwater sewers, and that actually passed in 2016. That gave us the ability to actually operate and maintain the actual current storm sewer system. 2018, we came back again and said, okay, now we want to help people like Miss Job and other people that may have localized flooding type of issues or even kind of erosion issues. Well, this is a localized flooding issue, so we identified more than 500 plus projects throughout the St. Louis region, throughout the district, and this is one of the projects that we identified. And we're like, okay, if we can get a funding source passed through the public, because we're a publicly funded utility, this would be something that we could come in and actually go after and fix. Mm-hmm. And so we put that out there in the ballot in 2018, and it did not pass by the residents of St. Louis, so we weren't able to actually do anything with that. and we're looking at solutions like coming down the road. Maybe we can come back out and find something that would actually work for the residents of St. Louis to help pay for these stormwater problems.
In her case, you said something about the line running from the top of her yard where puddles or ponds is too small. Is it just a matter of putting in a larger drainage line?
Yeah, she would need to expand the drainage line, and since it's a private property and it's a private drainage thing, we can't touch it without, again, the funding source to do that. I've been out and visited with Miss Job on several occasions, and the story behind that drain was the previous property owner had made a deal with the other neighbors to put this drainage pipe in for for basically getting a fire pit, and so that didn't help. It didn't help the Jobs when they bought the house, several years later. But that was the kind of the fix that these property owners came up with. They're like, if we put this drainage pool here, this drainage pool here, it'll take care of all the water coming off of our yards. And we'll in turn give you like a fire pit or whatever over here to kind of help beautify the yard. Well, the problem is that, that did fix the neighbor's yard issues, the neighbors around her and upstream from her. It takes that water off of there, but it's putting that water into that kind of that drainage pool. And then the pipe in there is not very big, and it gets clogged with leaves. It gets clogged with debris. We've actually helped her. We've actually helped clean out that pipe with her over time. We've come in and sprayed it to kind of help keep it clear for her. But there's just no fix that we can do, no permanent fix, because we're not, again, authorized to put a bigger pipe in there.
I see. Wow. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to react that way, but I'm thinking a cosmetic fix for one person as opposed to a serious drainage fix for everyone. It just didn't seem to be an even trade-off, but there was something else going on probably. Who knows? No,
it did not, and I feel bad for her. I mean, that's a very nice family, and they're trying to do the best they can to get things fixed. The other thing they have in their property is they have this is kind of unique, and we found this out when we were out there, and this might, and I believe they did get this fixed, but it might have contributed to some of the ponding they had in their backyard. They actually had a bomb shelter that was about 6 feet buried underneath their backyard because the person, again, back in the 50s or 60s, the person that built the home had built a bomb shelter in the underneath the ground there, and that was something that was taken on water. She was telling us about and kind of whatever. I believe that they were last year able to get that. They were able to get a contractor in and dig that out and get that fixed. So I think that's kind of helped with the ponding issue in their backyard, but not necessarily that drain issue.
Wow. Well, the rules of MSD service, you make some repairs, and in some situations you don't. It's just because of the way this utility is set up, correct? Can you explain?
Yeah, so again, it's kind of the unique thing about the interesting thing about MSD is that we're two utilities in one. We are a wastewater utility and we are a stormwater utility. Wastewater, we have a big funding source because that's coming from the revenue from people paying their sewer bill, which is the wastewater sewer bill, the money you pay for when you flush your toilet, your showers and stuff. The other side of it is a stormwater, and that we do have money that we collect on a personal property tax, and that was actually something that we had changed in 2016. So not everybody in the district pays the same amount, which is like 10 cents on your personal property tax, and that actually covers the operation and maintenance of the existing sewer system, storm sewer system that's already in place. That does not touch these private property issues, and that's where you see the big kind of uproar is that why aren't you fixing this issue? I pay you all this money, and the public doesn't understand they're paying in the two funding sources. You're paying your bill you're paying monthly is going to wastewater, and you're not having backups in your homes. You're not having issues with the sewer that wastewater sewer system because we are able. It's fully funded. We're able to do projects and capture that water. Storm side of it is a little bit different. We're only able to do very little with the money that we collect. We've tried to put a capital program in place there, but again, the voters voted that down.
Gotcha. Well, this suggests that property owners should seriously consider the benefits of flood insurance. Is that correct?
For instances when you have like localized flooding, because again, everybody lives in St. Louis, the entire region's a flood zone, not a floodplain, and people get that mixed up too. Floodplains are low-lying areas next to like take Chesterfield Valley, for instance, or take over in St. Charles, you got like that Newtown development over in that area. Those are all considered on floodplains. Flood zones are low-lying areas, like next to creeks, could be next to a river. But even some low-lying areas exist, away from those creeks and streams. And those are things that we tell people, make sure you have the proper protection, because you will take the protection to get your car fully covered. But when it comes to your homeowner's insurance, you do what you can to make sure that your home's protected, but then those extra steps like getting that added-on flood insurance, something that you may never use, but if you do have it and it does come into play, you're going to be happy that you do have it, because the average flood claim is anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000.
Wow. Well, that's a lot. You certainly don't want to get hit with that unexpectedly. Something else I noticed, I get a lot of cell phone flash flood alerts. So that tells, at least I did, certainly this last 2 weeks, they seem to be coming pretty frequently. Is that indicative of climate change or a change in the way our storms are moving through?
Yeah, it's definitely showing what the storm patterns are doing in St. Louis, and just not in just St. Louis, but throughout the Midwest. That we're seeing a lot more pop-up storms, or when we see some storms that come through, they're not just passing through, they're actually sitting on us, and they're dropping a lot more rain in a short period of time. I mean, take, for instance, this past Wednesday, that storm that hit us that caused major flash flooding throughout the entire St. Louis region all the way over to the Metro East, that storm actually sat on St. Louis for a good hour or two and was just dropping a lot of rain in a short period of time. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that does overwhelm the sewer system, because there's no man-made sewer system, period, that can handle 7 to 8 inches of rain in a 30-minute period. It's just not possible. There's nothing out there that will handle that. It's like taking a large bucket of water and dumping it on a small glass and hoping that glass retains that entire bucket. That's not going to happen.
Sure. Well, while you're talking about that, I mean, to help the listener understand, how do sewers catch water? What is the pump station? And what happens at a wastewater treatment plant? All of those things are connected. How does it work?
I can summarize this fairly easy and fairly quickly for you. Is basically that, again, St. Louis sits on two separate systems. We have a combined storm sewer or combined waste system, which is wastewater and stormwater going on the same system, and then we have a separate system, which is collecting wastewater in one system and stormwater in the other one. On the separate system, the water that hits your storm sewers, like those inlets on your streets, those actually go into the creek. They hit that and go straight out to the creek. The wastewater, the water that comes out of your home from when you're flushing your toilet or everything like that actually goes into the sewer system, to the wastewater sewer system, and hits our treatment plants. And since we sit on since St. Louis is different elevations, we have to use what we call pump stations to help pump the water up down to the plants, because all wastewater sewer plants sit in low areas, because we are on what we call a gravity system. We want gravity to do its job. We want gravity to pump that water when it can naturally to the wastewater treatment plants. When it can't, we have to use pump stations to pump the water up to an area to get it to go down. And so that's kind of where that goes. Because a lot of people do say, well, why aren't treatment plants built up on top of hills? Well, science would say if you're trying to use gravity, you want the water to fall into the plant, not to get pumped up to the plant, because it would be a lot more cost costly to do that.
Sure.
And there are systems in the St. Louis region. I mean, over in St. Charles, there are systems that are called suction systems where they are in a flat area, and there's no way for gravity or anything else to do that. So they actually have to push it through with force with a suction, like kind of a vacuum, so they're vacuuming it to the plant.
Uh-huh.
But our system sits on that, and that's kind of what we have there.
I see. Interesting. Last point, you say that if we work together as a community, we can slow climate change's progression. What do you mean by that?
So, I mean, if we work together, even just be mindful of everything that goes on. I mean, the biggest thing, going back to the stormwater rate, is that, people ask us, why don't we fix these flooding issues? Why don't we address these erosion issues? And the biggest thing is that we're not funded to do that. But it's like that whole notion of you pay for what you get, and if you pay for, if you're not going to pay for a service, you shouldn't expect to get it. And one of the things is that we've offered these things out there to the public, and if it doesn't affect everyone, if it doesn't affect me, then I'm more prone to say, okay, not my backyard. I'm not going to deal with that. I don't care. I don't have this problem, so why should I worry about everybody else? But when you come back to it, we're actually all collectively in this together, because it does become more costly on everybody if we can't fix the system, and we're getting these flooding issues, and there's flooding issues are infiltrating the wastewater system. That does become more costly. Then we have to put more projects in place out there that just don't necessarily they'll address the issues, but it just costs us more over time. And then we have these big tunnels that we build. Those tunnels aren't cheap. I mean, you can't engineer your way out of everything, and that's one of the things that we have to let people understand, is that be mindful of what you do, how you develop, the cars you drive, and that type of stuff too.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate the information, and certainly hope that our listeners benefit from all of these important facts. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
In summary, St. Louis has more than 500 flooding issues, some similar to Julie Job's. Given that we are surrounded by 3 rivers, it is important that you do your homework. Learn the facts about flooding. Be proactive so that you are prepared if a flooding issue occurs. MSD's website has everything you need to know. Go to www.msdprojectclear.org. Use MSD's website to build a safety strategy. That strategy should include keeping your sewers clean. Don't flush things like paper towels, feminine sanitary products, and etc. down your toilets. Don't flush toxins down your drains. By protecting your sewer system, you are protecting your property. You have been listening to Money Mondays by The Open Source. I am your host, Bonita Cornute. For more shows like this one, go to www.theopensource.club, add your email to podcast subscription window, and get new content in your inbox.
Thank you for listening to the opensource.club podcast. Become a subscriber through RSS or YouTube. There's more to come that you won't want to miss. Our name is our web address, theopensource.club.